This is an environment that gold and silver and, the precious metals thrive on because people are recognizing that their dollar, their currency is becoming worthless. So how do you preserve that? And the only way to do that is by being in precious metals because they hold their value, particularly gold.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky. It's so wonderful to have you with us on the show today, as it is to have Mr. RANA VIG with me. How are you, Rana?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here. Now, for everybody who's on the call today, Rana is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and he is also the founder of Blue Lagoon Resources. And we're going to be not only talking about Blue Lagoon Resources, but we're going to take a deep dive into many different aspects of Rana's life that led him to be where he is today. But with all that being said, Rana, what we'd like to do initially is just to talk a little bit about you, your background, and things that you like to do when you're not working, if there is much time for that. Do you have any things you enjoy doing outside of the workplace?
Yeah, I like to drink red wine. That's the only thing I enjoy these days. It's funny you said that, because I'm somewhat of a workaholic. Fortunately, my kids are much older and my wife is super understanding. And she actually tells me that, you're happiest when you're working. But the fortunate thing about that is, I have a home office and most of my life, I've worked from home. So I'm around and we have a nice little routine. But yeah, I love the end of the day to pop open a nice red bottle of red
Yes.
cast have and let it breathe and just enjoy that.
Well, you can send some over the internet for me. Thank you very much. And I'd have to send some back your way, given that we're in the McLaren Vale region. About Rana, I've done my research and I know that you enjoy eSports. Tell us a little about what you like about eSports.
Well, esports is an area that I think is growing tremendously, right? So as I look at taking companies public, that's an area that I'm intrigued at. To be honest with you, I mean, I was just blown away by probably like most people a little over a year ago when I started looking at this. I mean, who sits at computers playing games and having people watch them? I mean, I get it that you play games and that's a big business, but watching them,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just don't get it. So my kids are into it and they explain it to me and they watch on these various, Twitch and these YouTube channels. And so I think it's an area that's going to grow a lot. And frankly, one of the main reasons that interests me is my background for a better part of my life was in the advertising and marketing industries. I owned a publishing company and an advertising agency. So I know firsthand that these major advertisers are trying to get that niche market, those people that are sort of in their 30s and early 40s. They're hard to get, right? They don't listen to radio, anymore, and television ratings are going down. And really, that's what's driving the whole esports market. So I haven't found a company that I want to take public yet, but I'm certainly looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so very much. Now, it's funny we talk about E. When we add E to anything, we can almost talk about anything because now we're seeing electric car racing, and that really made me start to think about the minerals that are required to create batteries that run these things. And I think it may be a good segue to talk about, e-racing in terms of, they need different minerals and things like that. What's your interest in those sorts of areas?
Well, I drive a Tesla, so
There you go.
best car I've ever had. I mean, it's just amazing. The torque on that thing is so incredible. You
Oh,
just
yeah.
touch it, it just flies. It's just amazing. But yeah, look, on that side of it, copper I think is going to be a big play. In fact, I'm putting together a project right now in Chile that is going to be a big copper play. We've got the best team that I've been able to assemble, former BHP, former Rio Tinto, Anglo, like big players who are
Yeah.
at the tail end of their careers. And the reason we've done that or I've done that is because, I believe copper is going to be very important. And of course, the reason is, one of the main reasons is electrification. Electric cars like Tesla and others require more than 4 times the copper than the regular vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's going to become a very, very important. And of course, there's cobalt and lithium, and the rest. But I think copper is going to be the next big story here coming up in the next 1 to 3 years.
You know a lot about this game, and I think that's another good starting point for our discussion about gold. But just before we do that, I'd love to go over your bio, because I think it's important to set the context for everybody who is listening into the show, just to know, I guess, your caliber and where you've come from, and what you've experienced. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your corporate background with us?
Sure. So most of my life, Rick, I've been involved in private business, right? More than 30 years, with 5 different startups in different verticals. I'm just basically a startup guy who likes to make sure that he's the dumbest guy in the room, okay?
Oh yeah.
I want to be surrounded by the top minds, the top thinkers in the industry that I'm involved with. And people have often a hard time understanding that. How can you switch industries? I've been in publishing, I've been in advertising, I've been in fitness, I've been involved in various different startups, and of course mining. And it's because I'm a generalist, right?
Yeah.
I'm not educated in any one specific task and area. And the problem with that, education is great. But I think the challenge with that is you tend to use it, right?
Yes.
If you're focused in one area. So my, strength has been over the years has just been the guy who executes, right? Surround yourself with very, very smart people in that specific industry that you're involved with, and then just execute a plan. Because at the end of the day, business is business, whether you're running a restaurant or a movie theater or a mining company or what have you, or a gym, right? I mean, the fundamentals of business don't change. And so my background has been mostly in private. And then about 10 years ago, after the 2008, 2009 sort of, crash happened,
Yep.
I was looking for a change. I have a very successful venture capitalist as a friend, worth well over $300 million, made most of his money in mining initially. And he started talking to me, and he says, listen, why don't you get out of your private world and come into my very exciting world of the capital markets, So I said, sure. Hey, show me the ropes. How difficult could it be? And I was looking for a change, and I jumped in to mining, put over $1 million into the mining sector in late 2010, 2011. And about 6 months later, it was worth about 10 grand. I mean, it was like, whoa, what did I get myself involved with? And, we laugh now, but it was a very stressful time, because you enter into a new area and then you just get your, rear end,
Handed to you.
whacked. Yeah. And, but it was no one's fault. The mining sector collapsed. And you know what? That's the life of an entrepreneur, right? I mean, you can't sit around crying about it. So, I picked myself up and ended up taking over a couple of mining exploration companies. Again, surrounded myself with very, very smart technical people, and I made the business decisions, and eventually, exited those. And then 2 years ago, in 2018, when cannabis became super hot,
Mm-hmm.
I laser beamed focus on that industry because I saw the opportunity. And I was very fortunate. I took a company called Curaleaf out of the eastern United States. I took them public. Curaleaf was the largest cannabis raise in Canadian cannabis history, a $520 million raise. It was nearly a $6 billion reverse takeover.
Wow.
And a couple of months later, I was invited again. They said, hey, man, we've heard some good things about you. Come help us out. I took over another a company, and I found a company out of Arizona called Harvest Health and Recreation. And that in 2018 was the third largest IPO. It was a $300 million raise and nearly a $2 billion RTO. So, that's been predominantly my background in private and then in public life. And then as I was reading more and more, I thought, you know what? Mining has got to come back. It's been more than 10 years.
Yes.
And the more I was reading about that, I thought, especially gold. And I thought, you know what? So I decided to launch, much to the surprise of most of my colleagues. They thought I was crazy getting into mining because, when I started about more than 18 months ago to put together this company that I'm the current CEO of, people weren't talking about mining yet. Gold wasn't in favor yet, right? So, but yeah, that's predominantly my background.
Thank you so much for sharing, Rana. It's truly impressive. I wonder, is there a balance between your intuition and research when making a decision, such a significant decision like this? How do you make these decisions?
Yeah, look, I'm not that smart, all right? Really, I'm just a very hard worker. I get up early, I stay up late, I read a lot, I
Hmm.
get around, as I mentioned earlier, some very, very smart people in the industry. So now that I'm in the mining industry, I try to surround myself, with the brightest, people from that industry. And yeah, it's a matter of looking at they say in the capital markets, trend is your friend, right?
Yeah.
So so right now, gold is moving. Mining had to come back because everything I was reading was telling me all these governments printing money like there's no tomorrow, and interest rates staying at zero. All of these are environments at some point, right? It's very basic, right? You don't have to be an economics expert. It's very basic. If you borrow more than you earn, you're going to be in trouble,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's no different than our own household, and that's what governments have been doing. So all those things told me sort of, I guess intuitively, that something has to happen soon, and rest is history. I just picked these sectors at the right time. So just at the right time. They say if you work hard enough, you get lucky. So I guess that's what I was.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. Thank you again for sharing. Now, just prior to jumping into the gold conversation, I know that you've spent some time rubbing shoulders with some amazing people. One of those was the famous Will Smith, and you and he talked about philanthropic ventures. I believe that you are obviously a man of balance, and you see the good in giving and helping others to become better and living and building a better planet for us all to exist on. What made you start thinking about that, and what was that experience like with Will?
Well, I think giving is extremely important. We have a responsibility, right, to share, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I've never been, super money focused or hungry. I mean, I think if you work smart, hard, if you're kind, you share, you give. I mean, I was brought up with this, right? That
Yeah.
always donate, 10% of your income. So this is just these are just the things that they become sort of your lifelong lessons. You don't understand them as a kid, but you kind of learn, and they stay with you. And I think so. I've always done that. I mean, it's, for example, in my company in Blue Lagoon Resources, all my stock, was escrowed, is still escrowed. And the very first release that I had was a 50,000 shares. I donated it to a local hospital that I'm on the board of. I do a lot of community work. Worked for hospitals, universities. So I think it's very, very important that that one shares. And Will Smith's was a very interesting conversation. It's amazing the aura when I met him, that that he that the sense that you get around him, with his
Hmm.
present. Yeah, he's a fantastic movie star, but you know what? Honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't want to engage in a conversation because I love the guy. I love his movies, but you
Yep.
know what? Often you meet these people, and honestly, they're not very good. They're not very kind. But he was amazing, right? He was amazing, and just the feeling that he portrayed. In fact, I took a photo with him, a selfie, and I'm not a selfie guy. I told him, I said, I don't even know how to do it. And you know what he said? It just blew me away. He reached out to me and he says, please allow me. And he took
Oh,
that picture of the two of us. So it's a very simple a lesson of giving, and about just sharing, and not thinking that you're anyone special, because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure he takes off and puts on his pants the same way I do every morning and every evening, right? And
yeah,
and he
absolutely.
demonstrated that.
We've got 2 feet and a heartbeat. We're all the same. We might be in different locations, but we have different, very similar goals. Now, thank you very much for sharing that. I know that you come from a place of fundamentals. You've obviously talked about giving, and giving back, and all these things. Now, thank you very much for sharing that. Moving into the gold conversation, Rana, and Blue Lagoon Resources. I know that this is coming into its own right now. You took it over from someone else. Is that correct? How did this all come about?
No, I started it from scratch. As I mentioned earlier, hitting it pretty big, having two great successes in the cannabis space,
Hmm.
I was reading about mining industry and about gold, and I wanted to. I could see that cannabis was it peaked out. It was just way overvalued.
Yeah,
So I decided to start this mining company right from scratch, right?
from
I started
scratch.
it right from the very beginning. I IPO'd it right on the Canadian Securities Exchange just a little over a year ago. I started the process well over 18 months ago, but it takes a few months to kind of put it all together. And then we started trading actually on July 4th, 2019.
Oh wow! So, what type of deposits are there? Is there more than gold? Is there other minerals there?
Yeah, predominantly the project. I mean, we have a couple of the projects that I started the company with, but predominantly the main project that I'm very, very excited and bullish about is the project that I picked up about 6 months ago, and that is the Dome Mountain project in the northern British Columbia. It's a gold, predominantly a gold project, but it also has silver. In fact, currently we have a little more than four times the silver that we have gold. So for every ounce of gold, we have a little over 4 ounces of silver, which we never used to talk about because silver wasn't that much in favor. But
Yeah.
now with the prices where they are and where the smartest people in the industry are talking about silver being somewhere between $50 to $100, I mean, that becomes very, 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 very exciting. So this is a predominantly a gold project. And what's most exciting about it is that it's a little bit unique in that it has a permitted mine already. It takes 20 plus years to get these things from the beginning to up to the point where you get a permit and you can mine. And I
Production.
was, again, just at the right place at the right time. These people had, there's $68 million already spent on this property. 28 of that just happened in the last dozen years by the previous owners. They just ran out of time. They're 83 years old now, wonderful people,
Yeah.
but they just couldn't get it to the finish line. They got it literally to the 1 yard line. I mean, if you see some of the pictures and if you ever have a chance to visit the property, I mean, you'll be just blown away because all the infrastructure is there, right? From generators to a 500-meter, hole on the
Yeah.
side of the mountain, a big tunnel that goes right to the, those are very expensive. That costs millions of dollars, right? To the permitting. So we have that there in place. And then we have these 15 very high grade veins, gold veins that are already known. So we don't have to go search for them. They're already known. We know where they are historically,
Yeah.
and we have that. And then the last piece is 90% of the property has never been explored. So we have a gold property in a hot gold
Oh,
market that's near ready to go from a production perspective, and we have lots of exploration upside.
see, they've already done the geology. They've drilled the boreholes to check I guess, the strata and what's in the cores, and all that groundwork is done. It's amazing. How very exciting. I wonder, with everything that's going on in the world nowadays, it seems to me, regardless of if there's pandemics, if there's I guess if gold's flat, it still seems to be very popular among investors. Is that still true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're just in the first inning. People have been waiting for a long time for, gold to really, take off and do, what everybody thinks it's going to do.
Hmm.
And yeah, look, it's not rocket science, right? I mean, ever since, the world went off the gold standard, remember there was the piece of paper, that we call money, had value only because it was backed by something. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper,
Yeah.
right? And ever since the governments went off the gold standard, obviously, because with that they couldn't control their lying, really. Unfortunately, I hate to break it I don't know how it is in Australia, but over here governments lie, right?
Amazing. I
You know,
wonder.
right, all the time, right?
Yep.
So they needed to print more and more to pay for everything that they want to print, that they want to pay for, whether it's wars or handing out social programs. I mean, that's just the way governments operate. So in that environment, gold thrives, right? And you saw that happen in 2008 and 2009, right? When gold had its last run, because again, there was this whole economic unrest. Yeah, we're just starting. Look, can you ever remember a time in your life when you have this unprecedented printing of money around the world, right? Every
Mm.
government is in the same boat because they got to get their people, back to work. And you've got you've got this unrest happening, right? Demonstrations happening all over the world and
Oh yeah.
riots. And then you, on top of that, I mean, who could have possibly in their wildest dream predict a world pandemic at the same time? So, I mean, this is an environment that gold and silver and, the precious metals thrive on because people are recognizing that their dollar, their currency is becoming worthless. So how do you preserve that? And the only way to do that is by being in precious metals because they hold their value,
I'm just
particularly gold.
interested, as a bit of a sidetrack, what's your interest in, the digital currency that's coming through, the Bitcoins and the likes? What's your view on
You know,
them?
I don't know too much about that. I looked at it briefly, when all the craze was, happening, and that was just a little. I don't understand it enough to be honest with you. I get it that there's some sort of a scarcity factor and that, but I don't understand how they create that sort of scarcity. So I'm a little bit. Suspicious of
Yes,
computers and how they could change some algorithms or programming or
I
whatever they
agree.
do, and suddenly there's a whole bunch of more Bitcoin or Ethereum or the various ones that we have there, right?
Thank you. I'm loving this conversation. You're a wealth of knowledge, and now I wonder, in terms of geopolitical, local political, everything that's coming up in the November elections, what do you think is going to play out in terms of how this might affect gold and other precious metals?
Well, I don't frankly think it's going to make any difference, right? I don't think the gold cares whether the Republicans win or whether the Democrats win, because I think if you get Trump back in office, you get continued unrest, right? I mean, this is just his style, right, of aggressiveness, and so you're going to get continued unrest, in my opinion, and you're going to get continued, of course, spending of the money because he wants to build the big wall that he kept saying that Mexico is going to pay for, which they haven't, obviously, right? So he's got to pay. He's got to pay for that, and he's got to put people back to work because obviously he thrives on making sure everybody knows that the economy is doing well. Well, how's he going to do well? He's got to print more money and keep the interest rates low, which is what they're doing. If the Democrats win, you got a left-leaning socialist environment, and they're going to dish out even more money. They're going to have to print even more. So I don't think gold cares, or silver. And on top of that, you've got this pandemic that does not look like it's going away every time soon. So I think this unrest continues, and I think gold has no place but up to go.
It's a steady base for people to look at, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I'd love to, if we could, Rana, is to come back to entrepreneurialism because I know a lot of our audience are startups and they're smaller, medium-sized business owners. You've had a lot of experience in this, as a business owner, as a consultant. I was wondering if we can talk about, I guess, the fundamentals of business and how you go about, I guess, being a leader in an organisation. What would you say to an up-and-coming individual?
Yeah, I got a lot of proof, by the way. See all this here? I had before I started on my entrepreneur journey. I
Less
had
is
lots
more.
of
Less
hair.
is more.
Look, entrepreneurship is not easy, right? And it's
Mm,
not for everyone, right? You have to have, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, that fortitude, I guess, right? I mean,
yep.
because it's not a 9 to 5, right? I mean, there's no guarantee of a paycheck at the end of the day. But you've got to have a passion for it. So if you have a passion, and it's got to be more than money, right? Because if it's just about making money, then when those ups and downs come, it's very, very difficult. I mean, look at me, right? When I got involved, I was very successful. I got involved in the mining sector, and boom, right? I mean, that's a pretty big hit to take when you lose that kind of money
Oh
after
yeah.
tax dollars, right? But you know what? You have to stick it out. You have to have the willpower and the positive attitude to say, okay, you're right. Doesn't mean you don't get down. Of course, I was down too, right? But you pick yourself up and you say, all right, let me figure out, I'm in this mess. How do I get out of it? And you get out of it by surrounding yourself, in my opinion, by people who know more than you. And I think that's a very important lesson I learned very early on in my life. And look, I was a young, cocky guy when I was in my mid-20s. I learned quickly that, hey, listen, I don't know anything. I'm stupid at most things. That's what I've discovered, right? I'm only very good at a couple of things, right? And I laser beam focus on those. The rest I can hire or I can surround myself and learn from. And look at today, we have the incredible tools. I didn't have Google when I grew up.
Oh no.
We had to go to, I don't know what happens in Australia, but here, you'd go out to your local grocery store, the big chain Safeway, and they'd sell you a 99-cent encyclopedia. You buy one,
Yep, yep.
one, one,
Stack them up. Yep.
you remember that,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Did they have that in Australia?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Right? So you did that one at a time, right? But look at today. We have this incredible tool. I tell my kids all the time. I mean, this is amazing what people are growing up with. So entrepreneurs have this access to all sorts of things, from motivational to just, knowledge in their industry. So I think that a young budding entrepreneur, they need to understand first, right, that it's okay to be confident, right? But cocky and not, that's not a place for, in my opinion, right, where that leads to success. So you want to be surround yourself with people who are more knowledgeable than you are, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know this. That's
You don't know.
okay,
You can be
right?
humble.
Absolutely, right? It's not a beauty contest here, right?
Thank you so much for sharing, Rana. This is a great conversation. I'm really appreciating it and learning a lot. I wonder, in terms of operational dynamics, how has the pandemic affected the way you operate your businesses?
We've been very fortunate in BC, where I am in Canada. The mining is considered an essential service.
Hmm.
So, and we are up in the north. We're a small town, right? It's about 20,000 people, and our project is just less than an hour away from the town. So, we have not had any disruptions. Certainly, from a personal perspective, I mean, I have an office in downtown Vancouver, as well as a home office, and I haven't gone to the office in the last nearly a little over 5 months. But I haven't needed to, right? I have a home office, I have the internet, I have my phone, and really
Everything you
those
need.
are the tools you need. Yeah, our geologist is from the United States. We did have a little blip when he was coming over here. There was a lot of confusion at the at the border and all
Hmm.
that, but we got him through fine. He's here, he's working, and we're working hard advancing the project. So we've been very fortunate. In the mining industry has seen not a whole lot of disruption here in Canada.
I love taking the opportunity to speak with people like yourself in terms of not only their business smarts, but also their daily routines. Because I think, on balance, if you don't look after yourself and you don't have the right mindset and look after your body, you're not going to be able to perform at peak, which I suspect is very important in your position. Can you tell
100%.
us a little bit about your day? What does it look like? What does it include?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, right? I mean, I start the day, fairly early. I'm usually up between 5 and 5:30. And normally before I get out of bed, I tend to, just kind of lie there for 15, 20 minutes. It's kind of my own form of meditation. So I'm not sitting there formally meditating,
Hmm.
but I'm sort of thinking about the day and about what's the tasks ahead, and a lot of sort of positive visualization, thinking about how great this, the day is going to be. That kind of sets the tone for me, for the day. And then, I just attack the day from there. And by the time I'm done, through whether it's meetings, and that's been one of the, asked earlier about the challenges. One of the biggest challenges that COVID has created is a lack of contact. I'm used to
Oh
taking
yeah.
people out for lunches
Yep.
and a glass of wine,
Hmm.
and now none of that can really take place. Has been very challenging, and there's been a lot of Zoom meetings. I mean, I didn't know Zoom existed, to be honest with you, 6 months ago, right? So, but yeah, so have a lot of meetings throughout the day on Zoom and various conference calls. And then the evening, the way I sort of wind down, as I alluded to earlier, I was joking, but I'm quite serious. I usually have a glass or two of red wine, a nice red
Hmm.
wine, and I sit with my wife. We catch up for an hour, an hour and a half. I was kind of what the day is, and it just kind of ties it all in, with my kids, and just so that there's a bit of a balance. And then we carry on, with our evenings. And in between that, I usually try to find about 40 minutes or so for a workout, right? Some sort of whether I'm on my rower or my elliptical or some weights,
Hmm.
just to break up the routine and make sure that the blood is flowing, and
Move
because
that
I think
body.
that's very, very important.
We've basically covered off on adaptation and innovation because of this pandemic that we're all experiencing right now. I think people have started to learn that they can adapt and they can innovate. What are some of the positive things that you're seeing in your world in relation to adaptation and innovation?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, people panic, right? It's a knee-jerk reaction, right? Something happens and everybody's just suddenly panics like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But you're right. I mean, hey, invention is what do they say? Invention is the mother of necessity,
Yes, yes.
right? Right. So, I mean, things you figure it out, as
Yep.
you go along. And yeah, I mean, I think the biggest sort of adaptation has been these meetings and the lack of, that's been, I think, the greatest challenges is not being able to actually go personally to meet people, or if you do, you're nervous. Do you meet outside? Do you meet indoors? And I don't know how it's been in Australia, and we've actually been fairly lucky here in BC, Eastern Canada, not so much, but in Western Canada where I am, it's been pretty good, although we are sort of increasing again. But yeah, I mean, the lessons you learn are that you can overcome anything. I mean,
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day, and it goes back to our conversation about entrepreneurism, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every challenge you face, it's a learning opportunity, right? I mean, the mind is like an elastic band, right? I mean, if the more you stretch it, right, the more it gives, like more, you have to stretch it in order to test it, to work it, to sharpen it, right? And it doesn't do any good if it's just if you don't do that. So all these challenges are simply opportunities to learn and to attack and to figure out if you can't go over, you go under. If you can't go under, you go this side, that side, right? I mean, these are just different opportunities, and I think COVID is no different.
We've been very privileged to be able to digress a little bit with you, Rana, and I do appreciate this away from the gold conversation for the moment. But on that, I'm wondering, what is the process of, I guess, approvals, and how difficult was it to get, I guess, Blue Lagoon resources listed on the stock markets?
It's a challenge. I mean, you have to be able to prove to the regulators that you have a project that's worthy,
Mm-hmm.
of the public to invest. So, that's why it takes a few months. So,
Yeah.
it was no more challenging than I guess anything that I've done in my life. It's a process basically, right? You put it together, but the key really is once you're listed, what are you going to do? Right. And so, I was out all the time, looking to see how can I increase shareholder value, because ultimately, shareholders come in, at X and they want to exit at X plus,
Yes, of
right?
course.
And the only way you can do that, right, as management, as a CEO of the company, is by increasing, how do you increase that shareholder value? Well, the only way you can do that is by executing on a plan and making sure that you are growing whatever you're doing, whatever your business is, you're growing. And in this case, growing our property portfolio. So, I did 3 acquisitions in 10 months. I mean, I was very, very focused, right? Acquired other projects, but I was still looking for, a bigger one. And we were looking everywhere in Brazil, in Colombia, in gold, sort of known gold regions, and came across this Dome Mountain project. So yeah, it's challenging and but certainly not impossible. And I'm living proof of that, right? I was a young immigrant when I came here in the 70s. Never finished my schooling, never finished my degree, and here I am.
Here you are. Thank you so very much. Now, importantly, we're getting to that point in the call where we start talking about tickers. Now, if somebody wants to find you on the exchanges, what is the ticker that they will be using?
Sure. So in Canada, we trade under the symbol BLLG, and in the US, we trade under BLAGF.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. Now, also, Rana, I know that you have a personal website. I was wondering if you could maybe share a little bit about if people want to find you both personally and professionally, where are they going to find you?
Yeah, look, the best place is to go to bluelagoonresources.com. On it, they'll find an email a link, and that email will eventually make its way to me. I'm a very engaged CEO. I take my responsibility to talking to shareholders or potential shareholders very, very seriously, whether they're large or small. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's a very important responsibility. So I'm happy to engage in conversations via either email or get on a call and answer any questions. I try to be very transparent. So any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to answer and address them.
What an amazing call. Thank you again, Rana. Now, for everybody who's on the call today, as is normally the case, I will be making the links back to Rana at Blue Lagoon Resources. Anywhere you find this call, you will find those links. Rana, in closing, I've had just such a wonderful experience spending some time with you on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you, Rick. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.